Good day everyone. I am Joy Marish Ilagan Mariano from BS Ed major in Filipino and I am the reporter for today's topic. My topic is all about Chapter 2, Dependency Theory in the Latin America Experience. First, let us define what is dependency. So dependency is an historical condition which shapes a certain structure of the world that it favors some countries to the detriment of the others and limits the development possibilities of the subordinate economics. A situation in which the economy of a certain group of countries is conditioned by the development and expansion of the another economy to which their own is subjective. So now let us go back to dependency theory. Dependency theory can be defined as an explanation of the economic development of a state in terms of external influence, political, economic, and cultural on national development policies. It also focuses on individual nations, their role as suppliers of raw materials, cheap labor, and markets of expensive manufactured goods from industrial countries. The unequal exchange of relationship between developed and developing countries was viewed as a contributing to poor economic growth. In short, dependency theory attempts to explain the present underdeveloped state of many nations in the world by examining the patterns of interactions among nations and by arguing the inequality among nations is an intrinsic part of those interactions. The theory arose as a reaction modernization theory, an earlier theory of development which held that all society progressed through similar stages of development, that today's underdeveloped areas are thus in a similar situation to that of today's developed area at some time in the past, and that, therefore, the task of helping the underdeveloped areas out of poverty is to accelerate them along this supposed common path of development by various means such as investment, technology transfer, and closer integration into the world market. Dependency theory rejected this view, arguing that underdeveloped countries are not merely primitive versions of developed countries, but have a unique features and structures of their own, and importantly are in the situation of being the weaker members in a world market economy. Some writers have argued for its continuing relevance as a conceptual orientation to the global division of wealth. Dependency theory can typically be divided into two categories. First is the liberal reformist and the second is the neo-Marxist. Liberal reformist is a typically advocate for targeted policy interventions, while the neo-Marxist is believe in a command-centered economy. I have here an example of dependency theory. An example of dependency theory is that during the years of 1650 to 1900s, Britain and other European nations took over or colonized other nations. They used their superior military technology and naval strength at the time to do this. This began an economic system in the America, Africa, and Asia to then export the natural materials from their land to Europe. After shipping the materials to Europe, Britain and the other European countries made products with these materials and then sent them back to colonized parts of the Americas, Africa, and Asia. This resulted in the transfer of wealth from these regions products to Europe for taking control of the products. So maybe you are asking when dependency theory happened. So, dependency theory developed in the late 1950s under the guidance of the director of the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America, which is Raul Prebisch. Raul Prebisch or Prebisch and his colleagues were troubled by the fact that economic growth in the advanced industrial countries did not necessarily lead to growth in the poorer countries. Indeed, their study suggested that economic activity in the richer countries often led to serious economic problems in the poorer countries. Prebisch's final initial explanation for the phenomenon was very straightforward. Poor countries exported primary commodities to the richer countries who then manufactured products out of those commodities and sold them back to the poorer countries. Therefore, poorer countries would never be earning enough from the export earnings to pay for. Pripyat's solution was similarly straightforward. Poorer countries should embark on programs of import substitution so that they need to purchase the manufactured products from the richer countries. The poorer countries would still sell their primary products on the world market, but their foreign exchange reserves would not be used to purchase their manufactures from abroad. Now, the Latin American dependency theory. Latin American dependency theory is a strand of political economic thought that developed out of the UN Economic Commission for Latin America and Caribbean shortly after World War II. Dependency theories sought to explain persistent levels of underdevelopment in Latin America by situating national economies within the global economic context. Notable scholars in this intellectual tradition include Raul Pribich, Fernando Cardoso, and the Andre Gunder Frank, and the dependency theory as articulated by Latin Americanists came to later influence the world system analysis promoted by Emmanuel Wallerstein, Giovanni Arrighi, and Christopher Chase Dunn. Dependency theory argues that underdevelopment as experienced in Latin America and elsewhere is the direct result of capital intervention rather than a condition of lacking development or investment. Pribich, Gunderfrank, and others put forth that very same process that generate high incomes in Western Europe and the United States are those that maintain the rest of the world war in the state dependency vis-a-vis wealth extraction. Rather than looking towards the country level characteristic to explain development, as per earlier theorizations, dependency theory asks that social scientists reorient their analysis to attend the global economic forces that dictate development disparities both between and within the nation and states. In the neoliberal era, dependency theories gave theoretical insights that global capital flows, structural development, and underdevelopment remains highly relevant. This essay traces the intellectual lineage of dependency theory as articulated in Latin America. Several competing strands of thought from scholars working in this tradition and some consequences of dependency theory for policy, praxis, and social science research. So here are the examples of the Latin American experience, the poverty, inequality, and democracy. The Latin American experience argues that democratic stability requires policies that limit the society's degree of substantive economic and social inequality. A case in point is Latin America, long recognized as having one of the world's most unequal distribution of income and wealth. Observing growth patterns over the long run revealed that while the region has been capable of sustaining impressive growth of 4 periods of a generation or more, they are almost always interrupted by political crisis and instability driven ultimately by a fight for shares on the part of excluded social groups. The solution to this problem lies not just in continuing economic growth, but in sustainable social policies targeted at the poor. While populist leaders have been putting poorly designed policies in place, Latin America has also seen the emergence of well-designed anti-poverty programs like conditional cash transfer that have for the first time demonstrably lessened the degree of economic inequality.